Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for Resetting the Table, a conversation series by the Anthropologists. My name is Melissa Machido. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the founding artistic director of the Anthropologists. I'm joining you tonight from the unceded land of the Lenape people in Washington Heights, New York City. And tonight I'm pleased to have with us two wonderful ASL interpreters, Kim and Claire from Inclusive Communication Services. The Anthropologists is a women-led theater company dedicated to the creation of investigative theater that inspires action. For 13 years, we've been making provocative plays about women's rights, climate change, access to food, freedom of speech, and more, all created from research and cultural artifacts. With each project, we partner with organizations and people on the ground making change. Resetting the Table is part of our newest play, No Pants in Tucson, inspired by archaic US state laws. This play asks, what is the cost of gender oppression? We want to talk about who gets to make laws that govern other bodies, who creates and enforces policy, and can gender parity in politics help us to achieve bodily autonomy and equality. Tonight, we're thrilled to launch this series with our partner, 21 and 21, a New York-based nonprofit on a mission to get at least 21 women elected to the New York City Council this year. I'd like to welcome Board Chair Amelia Adams.
Good evening, Melissa. I'm so thrilled that we finally are getting to work together. It's been some years in the making. Hello, everyone. Hello to everyone that's watching on YouTube. Amelia Adams. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the chair of 21 and 21, and I must say that I've been involved with this organization since its inception. It was years in the making with a few councilwomen who were noticing that the number of women serving in that body were slowly declining. So our former Speaker, Mark Viverito, Councilmember Elizabeth Crawley, and Councilmember Margaret Chin came together and formed what is now 21 and 21. And I volunteered early on and pulled every one of our sister partners together and said, how can we make this happen? How can you help us achieve this gender parity? What do we need to do in order to get more women into local office? And all of our sister orgs, whether it's Planned Parenthood or Emily's List or Eleanor's Legacy, said, you need to do this, this, and this. And that's how this organization started. And we are a month away tomorrow to the primary here in New York City. And I'm super excited that you're going to meet some amazing women that are our candidates for office this year. And the last thing I'll say is that during this time of COVID, it was these candidates who actually gave me strength and hope for a future of our government, because we have so many women who were moms, who are grandmothers, first-time moms, first-time candidates who had a vision of what government can look like. And I think that our recovery is going to be looking on, I'm hopeful about our recovery if we get some of these women who you'll meet tonight. I should say when we get these women that you'll meet tonight, because you're going to support them. So
Right.
We have to speak it into existence.
Absolutely.
I am so excited. I will bring in our candidates. So our first candidate is a racial equity educator, the founder of a coalition working to save small businesses and jobs. She's a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, Sheba Simpson.
Hi, everyone. I am Sheba Simpson Amsterdam, and I am proud to be here. My pronouns are she, her, he, and him. I do embrace my male positive energy.
We're also joined by a mother, a public servant, and a community advocate, Aisha Bravo.
Thank you for hosting us tonight. My name is Aisha Bravo. I am a resident of District 15 and a candidate for the City Council in the Bronx. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. And again, thank you for hosting us tonight.
I did tell you we have some diverse candidates. Up next, we have an attorney, a community advocate, an expectant first-time mother, and she's a first-time candidate, Julia Foreman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Foreman. My pronouns are she and her. I am running to represent District 26 in the New York City Council here in Western Queens, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with everyone.
And I'd say last but not least, we have an environmentalist, an urbanist. She's also a first-time candidate and also someone who worked with our organization, Sarah Lynn.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lind. Thanks for having me. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm running for City Council in District 6 on the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you, Amelia. I also am so thrilled that it all finally came together. And thank you to all of our candidates for joining us today, but more importantly, for deciding to run for office.
Thank you, Melissa. And I'll be door knocking for you all between now and the primary.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so 3 of you are first-time candidates, which is tremendous. Since our founding in 2008, our theater company has centered women's experiences and worked to elevate historically marginalized voices from the footnotes. So much of our work has been about resurfacing the voices of women and insisting that they be remembered. So my first question to kick off our conversation is, whose memory do you draw upon? Who is an inspiration for you running for office? Sheba, you want to start?
I definitely would. It's not just one person. I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors. I also stand on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm, as well as Frederick Douglass, and my mom. These people have inspired me to push through when things were difficult, to think strategically when times got tough. And Michelle Obama also, people always say you can't say this in public, but I'm going to say it. She's my best friend in my head. She is the person that I wish I had as a teacher when I was younger. So I really think about these people when I do this work.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Sarah?
Sure. I'll go very personal, although I love all those examples as well. And definitely those are inspirations for me as well. A personal inspiration is my grandmother, who grew up in pretty abject poverty in Mississippi. And she valued education. She worked really hard. She became a nurse and was able to come to New York City. And you know, she just built a totally different life for herself through hard work and dedication. And a little bit of luck. So I always think of her, and keep, you know, she always said, keep your nose down and just keep doing the work. So I keep doing the work.
Beautiful. Aisha? Oh, we might have a little internet lag. Julia, you want to hop in till we get Aisha back?
Sure, absolutely. So I think that there's a lot of women, you know, that all of us, every woman running for office, we stand on the shoulders of the women who ran first, every woman who did something first, whether it be city council or Congress. I think about my own Congresswoman, Carolyn Maloney, who was the first woman to get pregnant and give birth while serving in the city council, and how much of a trailblazer she is for all of us to be able to, you know, I think I think everyone else here is already a mother. I'm on my way to becoming a mother, and it really does mean a lot. And then, of course, I think about my own mother, who raised me with absolutely no concept of gender norms or me not being able to do something because I was a woman. I was always pushed to, you know, do the best that I could and achieve all that I can without any fear of being held back by my gender.
Thank you for that. And as soon as we can get the internet working with Aisha, she'll be back in. But I also want to say that now we're really going to open it up, and I'm going to let you all dive in. You don't have to wait for me to call on you, but thank you for filling this space with the memory of such powerful and inspirational women in your lives. So this event tonight is part of our newest play, No Pants in Tucson, which was inspired by city ordinances from the 1850s that prohibited people from dressing as the opposite sex. That is the language that was used then. And New York's own statute is from 1845. These laws proliferated when women started organizing for the right to vote. And they were weaponized against women seeking jobs and equal pay, seeking representation in office, used against transgender and non-binary people, and against women in lesbian relationships. While many of these city ordinances have been repealed, there are dress code policies nearly everywhere. So I want to open it up and ask all of you, have you ever experienced your attire being imposed or regulated?
Yes, definitely. It is amazing to me that in 2021 we still are having these conversations about clothing. As a woman who is voluptuous, there are things that I can't hide because that's nature, and I'm always policed. And most often it's women who have done it to me, and it's sad because we should know how it feels to be singled out, and we need to think about what we're doing to young people, especially girls, when we're telling them, "Oh, your shorts are too short, your shirt is too short," or it's something that they can't help. You can't help how you develop, and so yes, I am still policed at 51 years old. My attire is still policed.
I had the craziest thing happen to me the other day that almost seemed too perfect given what we're talking about tonight. But I was out canvassing in my campaign t-shirt and jeans, which is my pretty standard, standing on the street talking to voter apparel. And a man was kind of standing there, and then a woman walked by wearing a nice little sundress. And he said, "You see, that's what women are supposed to wear. They're supposed to wear dresses and look like nice women, not stand here in pants like a man, like you." And he went off. It went on. And I can't believe this is still happening, But he was and he just got himself worked up. He was so angry about it. So it was wild.
I think more, I like that Sheba brought up how we do this to young women. Even girls essentially are policed with school dress codes. Very rarely are telling men or the boys, to be real, it's boys and girls, not men and women. They're telling the girls, your shoulders can be distracting. And so it's your job to keep someone else from being distracted. And then when we get to the professional world, as Amelia pointed out, I'm an attorney, and when I would go to court, you were encouraged to wear heels, and you're standing up in court. You're not sitting down, and it's one of those things where, for fashion norms, for gender norms, our comfort is not necessarily something that is prioritized.
No.
I'll also say, and I know that women of color experience this a lot more than I ever did, and I do want to acknowledge that. But when I was looking for jobs, I was always told, for an interview, you should maybe blow your hair out. Wearing your hair curly, it's just not as professional. And I know that, I'm being told that it's a suggestion, it's not a big deal, but that women of color who have natural hair are very often policed and very often told that their hair is unprofessional, the way that it grows out of their head. And there's a lot that we still need to do to end the discrimination that people are experience because of their gender, because of their race, because of how they look.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm getting so aggravated hearing these stories.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm the queen of technical difficulties, so let me just share that. I'm literally, do you hear an echo? I am literally in the hallway at this point.
You are
I
making
get
it work,
reception.
Aisha.
Yes, I can't be at home because of the kids. I can't be downstairs in the campaign office because of the noise. So this is what I have, and I thank you for your patience. So if it's okay, I guess I'll share really quickly the first question since I couldn't earlier.
Yeah.
But I share something with Sheba on this one. Shirley Chisholm, growing up and just learning about her, she became like my role model, right? Especially in a community of color where she was like the one person that was pushing. And I feel that way. I feel that way when I'm doing that in the Bronx, right? We all know that historically the Bronx has been underrepresented by women, whether it's in elected office or just positions of leadership. And you know, we've made some strides along the way, but we need to do a little more. But my abuelita, you know, she came here from Puerto Rico, and you know, she raised me. I didn't have my parents. And when you think about strength and that leadership, you know, I got it from her, like not to give up, you know. And she went through a lot. You know, we grew up in NYCHA. We suffer from heavy food insecurity, right? Issues in school that I had to become the translator, right? You know, she didn't dominate the language. Most of the issues that our families are going through now. So she's definitely was and still is my pillar of strength currently. And to deep dive about being a Latina in politics, right? Shiva highlighted this as well. Like, I can't hide my curves, nor should I feel like I have to, right?
Right.
But you know, Julie, you touched on this as well. It's like, and Sarah, it's like you walk down the street, you want to be taken serious, and now it's the summertime, right? And I'm wearing a nice professional suit below the knee, but my curves are my curves. And then there's like a man, it's like he's not focused, he's wants to compliment everything, and I'm like, hey, I'm running for office, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll vote for you. And it's like, oh, that's not the impression I'm trying to give here. And it's almost like you have to dim down how you look in order to fit a mold, right? And I hear this often, people want to vote for a Jackie, not a Marilyn, right? Almost like that Legally Blonde kind of quote. And my hair is something that's always critiqued as well. And it's like, why can't I have the choice of color, right? A man chooses to shave his head and no one says anything. It's like, oh, hey, that's a good look. And me, it's like, why? Are you trying to be something you're not? And it's like, oh, how about I like this? Or the lipstick, right? And it's wardrobe, but it's a combination of how we look optically to folks. And I think at some point it needs to stop now, because that's one of the reasons, one of many, right, why people don't take us seriously. It's like they see us, they object us, right? They how do I put this? They see us like objects, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they don't humanize us as leaders. And I think that's an issue, and also our motherhood. So that's there's so many things that can be thrown into that. But yes, wardrobe is definitely something that we get judged on, especially on colors, I would say as well.
And all of these examples of having your dress and your appearance dictated or policed by people outside of you for jobs or in a social environment, it's so insidious. It may seem harmless, but it actually really can stop women from entering the public or professional sphere. So I want to take it a little bit broader and ask, you know, aside from clothing restrictions, and we've seen how some of these are codified into law and some are more organizational or cultural policy, but aside from clothing restrictions, are there current policies that you still find to be harmful to women and marginalized genders?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in and say, you know, our reproductive rights are very much under attack, more so than in a very long time. Even the way it is right now, it's not protective. I was just reading this post about the many, many women, and most often women of color, marginalized communities, who are already being punished for miscarriages, for stillbirths, under the idea that, you know, their fetus was a life and they're murderers if the fetus dies. It's insane what's happening, and I think we need to be talking very clearly about it, because these are scary times.
That's thank you, Sarah. And that is research that we did discuss and has been part of our creative process for this new play, especially when there are laws that you know, are more vaguely worded and they are weaponized against very specific groups of people, groups of women.
I would also
Julia, I feel like, yeah.
I would talk about leave, whether it be parental leave, family leave, sick leave. It's always something that, the mother is expected to be the person to pick up a child from school.
Yeah.
You have to use your own sick time. I hope that we can use the lessons that we learned during COVID to realize telecommuting is very possible. And if you need to stay home, if you need to work from home for a day, you shouldn't be penalized for that. But it's also something where we need to, encourage businesses, encourage workplaces to provide actual family leave beyond, now in New York City, we have 12 weeks, or in New York State, rather. Let's make it more. Let's really be the leaders in the United States. Let's look to what pretty much every other developed nation has, and, understand that the time off that any parent needs when you start a family is something that is a societal good, that is not something that should set your career back, and is something that we should be encouraging people to take advantage of, so that there is that familial bond of, parent to child.
I also want to add that I think that these policies are put in place to deter us from, one, either having children or making the choice to stay home to raise those children, because it gives people a comfort that the competition is, it's lessened. And so I have a son that's 14 years old, and I'm being very transparent here. In the environment that I work in, I was still paying back time from being out with him for 2.5 months up until maybe 2 years ago. And that's ridiculous, because in the interim of that time, life happens. You have to take days off. I got to the point in my life, I said, you know what? That building or that place is going to be there. That job is going to be there. My family only gets me, a certain amount of time in their life, right? And you want those memories to be there. So the work sometimes does take a back seat. But then the work also is what also guides us to know that we need to be doing what we're doing, which is getting ourselves into position to change these archaic policies that really hurt women and make men feel empowered.
I guess I'll chime in with maternal mortality, right? We're not investing enough in when it comes to education and services for women of color, and we've seen those rates just get higher, right? So that's also a threat. Making sure that we are reproducing safely. That's like a thing that unfortunately gets ignored often. Sheba touched on this in terms of like leave. I'll share an example. I'm on leave, right? I'm a city employee and I'm on leave. And guess what? Right now I don't have health insurance, right? My son gets sick under my plan. I'm a candidate. I have to come out of pocket, right? So we're not being accommodating to women running for office, right? It's a very much so male dominated, and when we think of spaces where women need to lead, we need to be accommodating to that. I know the city council, I think it was Lori Cumbo who introduced the bill, right? So now the CFB will allow us to spend some campaign money on childcare. But that's still money I have to raise, right? It's still money that puts me at odds to my counterparts, right? It's not like I have extra money that I can raise. So that's an issue, right? So there are many disparities that I think women as a whole face. My district currently is 54% head of household and women who have school-aged children. So you just imagine the disparities now, how many women were forced to leave the workforce, right? And just do remote learning. So to Julia's point, we have to reimagine what the workforce looks like for women, right? Or head of households or caregivers when it comes to working post 2021. So I think that the city of New York has a unique opportunity, hopefully with the new elected body of mostly women, right? In a perfect world, I would love to see that, where we could kind of come to the table and reimagine what the workforce will look like, accommodating us. So I just went.
I'll just,
No,
can I just throw a plug
Yeah.
in because I think Aisha mentioned a few things about COVID, and I think everyone here, many 21 and 21 candidates near the beginning of COVID signed an op-ed specifically talking about the disparate impacts on women and especially women of color that COVID had. So, I encourage everyone to go check it out because these are really important issues, and it lays that out.
And I just want to add too, in December 2020, 148,000 women lost their jobs due to being just let go from their jobs. And oftentimes they were the head of households. So what happened to them while we waited for Congress to make a decision about another stimulus check? And unemployment was also running out. So we have to really think about how the policies that are in place really affect everyday lives.
Absolutely. And I appreciate how several of you have invoked the spirit and memory of Shirley Chisholm. And I'm sure you got from the title of our event, this is a play on her famous quote, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." And so this dialogue really is about yes, let's reset the table, reformulate the table. Some people want to say just throw the table away, but the truth remains that decisions are made at the table of government.
That's right.
And in order to shape the future of our city, we need to be really clear about who needs to be at that table making those decisions.
I'd love to I know that wasn't a question, but I'd love to respond to what you
Yeah, please.
There is a real distinction, I think, that needs to be made between people who support ideas and they support, gender equity and supporting mothers and parents. And there's a difference between lived experience and prioritizing that and thinking about it not just as its own idea, but in the concept of how we think about housing policy and education policy, transportation policy. It's bringing lived experience to the table is also, I think, why all of us here are so invested in and so proud to be endorsed by 21 and 21, because you need that gender equity on the legislature, maybe female majority on the legislature, in order to make sure that we are actually tackling these issues instead of just supporting them.
If I may, I love everything you just said, Julia. That's exactly what it is. We've had a legislative body that unfortunately has not lived through a lot of the issues the community has. And I think that this is why the city has regressed so much. And I think it's about that time that we have folks that have not only obviously the government experience to lead, right? Because we need that too. We need the experience. But you're so right. We need the lived experience. Like, I know the angst of not knowing where your next meal is coming from, right? Or living in public housing, or being a product of a failed education system. If you have never experienced any of those things, then who are you legislating for? So that's like the $1 million question. And clearly no one's been legislating for us. So this is why we're gonna come bring that table and that chair. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I wanna take a moment to talk to our audience, our viewing audience on YouTube right now. We are going to be giving you some links to the candidates' websites so you can learn more about their platforms and the issues that they care about and their ideas, and also ways to help them. And I also want to encourage you to put any questions that you have for the audience into the comments section, and we just may ask it in a moment. While you're thinking of or typing up what you'd like to ask them, I am curious to know from our candidates, even without the written law, as we've started to uncover, our society has many unwritten rules about gender. Can you share how some of those unwritten rules may have impacted your life and candidacy, even aside from clothing and appearance and gender norms in that way? Like, Sarah, this is my setup for you because I want you to talk about your experience on social media, which is now the way that we're communicating, the way that you're running your campaigns. And what happened?
Yeah, definitely. My campaign, I took a stand last summer and advocated for the importance of a temporary homeless shelter in our district to house New Yorkers experiencing homelessness in a safe way during COVID. And it really created a lot of backlash, much of which lived on Twitter, where me and my campaign staff were harassed pretty constantly. I mean, anytime we would tweet, it would be these really sexist, kind of horrific things and private messages. And at one point, they got hold of my campaign manager's cell phone number and sent her, rape and death threats. So yeah, it was pretty shocking, but it shouldn't be shocking. But I thought, wow, I just wanted homeless people to have a home. But I guess some people, which actually I was going to mention the last question, because we were talking about the lived experiences. And the other thing is, I was just reading this study about how, most people, if you ask them, would not identify themselves as racist. But when you, without bringing up racism, ask them about questions that would help lessen the impact of, systemic and structural racism, they're not in favor of those policies. So it's easy for people to say, I want gender equity, or no, I'm not racist. But when you're talking about what are the policies that would actually fix these problems, it's a lot. People don't want to support policies that might impact them in any way negatively, even if only in a perceived way.
That's a loaded question. People know, I believe that people know that they are racist. And they want to gaslight the person who questions their ideals about the differences in how people are treated, particularly people of color. As a foundation Black person, I know every day that my eyes are open or closed, that my existence irks certain groups of people. But that doesn't stop me from living a self-determined life. That doesn't stop me from doing the work that is necessary to abolish some of these policies that really have generationally affected people who look like me. And then we also have to call it what it is. And when we have policies that inherently hurt one particular group and highlight or emulate, or maybe not the word emulate, but makes them feel superior, it's a time, and that time is now, to change those policies. And that's why I so support the 1619 project being implemented into schools. We need to address what has been swept into the middle of our carpet, and the elephant in the room. And until we can be honest about the culture of this country on how it treats people who are othered, we are going to continue to go around in this circle, and this society cannot move forward because the people that are being harmed are not being able to take their rightful position and their assignments in this society. We can't move forward if everyone is not thriving and given the opportunity to be their best.
Thank you, Shiva.
I guess the question was more of like what other stigmas, right, we go through as women.
Yeah, like those unwritten rules, where sometimes it does exist in policy, as Shiva was pointing out, and then other times, there's policy that's in law, and then there's cultural policy, right? So what are those cultural policies or expectations, unwritten rules that have impacted your candidacy?
I would say the whole childcare. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Like the whole expectation of childcare is a big deal. I've knocked on doors where mothers have asked or have pointed out, saying, "Hey, I'm struggling. How are you going to represent me? Like how can you do both?" So those are like things that unfortunately are like there, right? And, you know, while we share our struggles, it also, it hurts us in a way, right? It's almost like being honest hurts us, right? It's like, hey, our lens is missing, we need to be at the table. But then people will question, wait, you just said that you're struggling, so how can you do both? So that's like that's a real thing that we need to talk about. I've got these at doors, yeah.
Yeah, Aisha, you know, you're pointing out like there's such a lack of infrastructure to actually support families and mothers in particular, that you are seen, or a candidate who's a mother is perceived as a liability rather than somebody who could really advance the case for equity, gender equity.
I have to just tee this up for Julia because, you know, we had this interaction. She had to post that the fact that she's expecting wouldn't impact her taking office. And it just like chilled me to the bone that she would have to say that, because we've had male council members have, you know, babies and no one thinks twice about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the assumption is that the mother is going to take care of the child so the male, the father, can go back to work, right? But what about men taking the responsibility to say, hey, you know, I got this. Go do that good work. We have to really hold people's feet to the fire when it comes to the double standards in which we allow it to continue until we call it out and then we change it, the policies, or we can't change mindsets, right? But we can change policy.
Yeah. And I just, you know, I appreciate Sarah bringing up that we posted that. And, you know, it was something that when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, all right, this might get a little sticky. And by and large, folks that I talk to in my district are excited with me. You know, when we went public with it, we rolled out a parents and families plan that was born from a roundtable discussion with other parents. So it was really great. But, you know, once we're out, we're public. My husband and I actually went to a community like yard sale thing. We're looking at all these things, and it, you know, I'm very obviously pregnant at this point. And someone found out and said, oh, and you're running for office? And they're like, wait, so we're going to elect you and then you're just going to be on maternity leave? And I kind of had to say, well, actually, you know, I'm due at the end of September. I wouldn't take office until January. So that does give me some time at home. And then I looked and I was like, and he also is going to be getting paternity leave, which he'll take, so that we will be doing this together. But it is frustrating that it's something that could be looked at as a negative when it's, you know, the most exciting and most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. You think running for office is scary? Like, my God.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because
we just did want to be public about it and be open and be like, I am pregnant, but I'm in this for the district. I'm in this, you know, now and once I'm a mother as well.
Well, thank you all for normalizing moms running for office. I know that is not your whole identity, but it's important. I'll just share briefly, like for me as someone in theater, I spent a lot of time, or anytime I encountered a woman director who had kids, I just was gobsmacked, like, oh my gosh, you have kids and you're still in theater. So I think that this holds true across almost every industry, right? And we have to break that perception of working moms. We have an excellent question that I want to get to from one of our audience members. Tiffany, can you pop that? Yeah. So Amy, thank you for asking this. If you don't already know, Amy is with the League of Independent Theater, so you should check out the work that they are doing. But Amy asks, what do you think is the most impactful committee assignment you could get as council member?
So, although this conversation has been mainly around gender equity, running in District 26 in Western Queens, which has seen a lot of changes over the past 10 years, I really think that the most impactful committee assignment that I could get, both representing my district and hopefully for the whole city, would be on the land use committee. I think that we have a real opportunity, and especially coming out of this pandemic, there's a real desire for us to move away from developer-driven development and more towards comprehensive community-led development plans and city planning, and really exploring different ways that property could be owned, could be stewarded, what we could be using things for. And I love Amy asking this question because she and I had actually spoken in the past about how creative land use and community land trusts, for one good example, could really help our arts community recover, because we could create these deeply affordable, community-owned spaces for the performing arts, for the visual arts, for really any artistic endeavor.
I knew Julia was going to say that, and I was like, she stole my thunder. But I totally agree. I think that's absolutely the most impactful committee. Housing is, I think, the foundation of everything else in our lives. And right now, New York City is in a housing crisis. We have got to figure out this problem, and that starts with land use.
I agree. Land use, I think we're all on land use here. Housing is definitely a big deal to me. Also, public housing is definitely a dear and near. Like I mentioned earlier, I come from public housing, so being able to sit on the public housing committee would definitely benefit my district. Really quickly today, I toured a housing development, a senior housing development, and I witnessed conditions that I left in tears of anger. At that point, I've toured many NYCHA developments. I come from NYCHA. I've never seen that. And these are seniors that have paid their dues to society, who are retired and should be living well and dignified. And I think that we have ignored our aging population, very much so. There's one elevator and I see them all struggling with walkers trying to go up these stairs. I see mold and mildew. I mean, these are real things, but not to digress, I also would love to sit on the land use committee, because I really think that, the environment, ULURB is a big deal, right? In communities like mine, we see heavy density. I'm very supportive of the creation of supportive units, right, which helps our homeless crisis. But I also think we need to make sure that the right resources are going into communities, especially when you create development. And I think that the Bronx has been starved for a very long time, and we continue to create units and not paying attention that the fact that our schools are 150% capacity, that our sanitation budget has been cut, that our parks budget has been cut, our education is the first thing that gets cut, right? These are all the things that unfortunately keep happening, and we keep putting more units into this district, right? And when we talk about a pipeline to prison, we're looking at overcrowded classrooms, and we're at a point where even recreational classrooms are being used for regular classes. So we're depriving our kids from many resources. So everything does revolve around land use, and we need to make sure that we use it appropriately, and by revamping the ULURB process and the environmental review that right now does not include racial equity, economic equity. And I can keep going. I'm a district manager of Community Board 7. So one of my biggest, it's like one of those things, like everybody has a thing. And as a district manager, I'm like a developer's kryptonite, because I make them do the right thing, or at least I try. And this is why I'm running for the city council, is that I want to amplify that voice with policy. So I would join these lovely ladies on land use.
Thank you. And Sheba.
So I guess you ladies will be with the land use, and I'll be with education, and also with the. I'm sorry, I lost my thought, but I'm going to stick with education, because I know that there are people right now, as we're speaking, looking at third graders scores that will be used to create more prisons. And as an educator for over 20 years, I have seen firsthand how our students are underserved, not because the teachers don't want to teach, because they don't have the funding to give our kids the opportunities that other districts that don't look like mines easily get services and programs into their schools. And so we have to really look at the fact that there is racial inequities throughout this city that needs to be addressed. And when I get to city council, I am going to fight tooth and nail to get my community the money that the students need to get programs such as STEM, music, yoga, all of the services that they deserve and have been historically ignored and not given. So I'll leave it to you ladies to do the land use, and then I'll get the money for the education.
And we got your back on that. Don't worry.
We will be fortunate to have all of you in office. We have one more audience question that I want to pop up here. So Mariah asks, running for office must be a grueling process. What keeps you motivated, inspired, and going? And Aisha, as you and I talked about, you said this is 24/7. And I see all the things that all of you are doing. There are no days off between now and June 22nd, which is the primary. Have you registered to vote yet, New Yorkers? We're going to get to that. But what keeps you going?
I'll go first since I haven't gone first. I usually wait. There's so many factors, but I would say it's anger in my childhood, right? Like my childhood, it's like the anger of like touring these buildings, like I shared earlier, and the anger of growing up in housing where people forget about you and having to roll pennies, right? And realizing that as I knock on these doors and I'm 36 years old and I went through this when I was a child, and guess what? My neighbors are still going through it. So yeah, I'm very angry. That motivates me. My children. The inequities that we went through, the exposure we just went through with this pandemic, right? Those are the things that drive me. Every door I knock is a reason why I knock on another one every single, day, or hundreds, because at this point we're like at thousands, right?
Thousands.
But I just went through a special, right? So let me share that. Like I just went through a rape. And it's like Groundhog's Day all over again, as if that one never happened. So like I'm going, right? I'm going. That's my drive. But I'll leave you with this: it's my kids, it's my childhood, right? That angst of like, hey, I went through this, but guess what? My neighbors are still going through that, and yeah, I'm pissed off. And there's nothing to say. Fight like a mother, right? Like, and I'm fighting like a mother because I think we deserve people who are like us, who have gone through these experiences. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of lip service. And that's what we've gone through in the city of New York, from the top down. And unfortunately, I know that city council races are not as sexy as congressional. Do you hear that sound? I'm sorry.
It's New York City.
I know, right? Like somebody's in somebody's way right now. So like, if you're angry at all these things, you need to look us up. You need to support us because like I said, it's not sexy as voting for someone or supporting someone for Congress, right? But I think that we need to really look at the city council and support races where you have hardworking people and not just Twitter stars.
I love that you just said that, Aisha, because to me, it has nothing to do with being sexy. People are shocked at the importance of city council. I do a table at Tito's barbecue station, shameless plug. He is one of my members of my coalition to save small businesses and jobs. And I took my table outside of the restaurant yesterday, and I was able to talk to so many people who did not know the job of their city council member. And when I told them that the budget affects everything in their lives, and they were literally shocked, most of them. And so our job is really going to be important because it's going to shape and it's going to shift and it's going to make lives better in our city, particularly communities like ours, and all over the city. But I feel like the budget that we currently have is very, very lopsided, and it continues. This is a continuation every year, and so it is essential that when we get in there, we make sure that the communities that have been underserved get what they definitely deserve. And I keep saying that because that is my point. My voice and the voice that I hear is my community. They are my priority because they have suffered generationally, and it is time that their concerns get some answers, and then they get some real answers that are sustainable, with some solutions that are sustainable, that are give voice to what needs to be done in this city, which to help everyone to be their best and get the best. It shouldn't be that gentrification happens and then the services come into communities like mine. The services should be there in healthcare, with the police, with education, with housing. Those are the concerns of my community, and those are the concerns that I'm going to address when I get to City Council.
Thank you, Shiva. Julia, Sarah,
Sure,
what's keeping you going?
So I loved Aisha just being like anger, just straight up. No, but I think that there is like a certain fire that like starts in your belly that gets you to run in the first place. That I don't know if you all felt this, where it's like, I need to do this because I need to make sure it gets done. I need to make sure that people, take care of this community. My big thing in Western Queens, I want to make sure that the fear that was expressed to me from across my district of people being pushed out of their homes by the rising rent and the luxury development. No, I'm not. I'm not going to stand for it. I don't want to let it happen. And yeah, I think the question said this is a grueling process, and you're absolutely right. It is. But I will also say that, when I talk to voters, whether it be in person, on the doors, over the phone, there's just something that reignites that fire from hearing people appreciate being heard.
Yes.
A good portion of my platform, I spoke about the parents platform, but we recently came out with a seniors platform. We have an arts platform, and these were written, with information that I received from people living those experiences. I have my ideas, I have my passions. Unfortunately, I don't know everything, but I get to really connect with people, really listen to people, hear what they want, and work with them to build a policy platform. And I think that that's something that's really important to me going into this as, the next council member for this district, knowing that I'm doing it from a position of representing what people want, not running for Julia Foreman, but running for District 26.
I honestly couldn't say it any better than any of them, especially Shiva. I mean, you are so inspiring, and I'm not even going to attempt to replay that. So I'll just say on the personal level, just day in and day out, it definitely is my kids. I started this, because I want them to have a better future. I want all children to have a better future. And so, I kiss them goodnight every night, and that's why I'm doing it. And on a super lighter note, what keeps me going just every day is this little lady who sits next to me all the time when I'm working.
I thought you were going to come out with like a giant cup of coffee.
I know. I thought it was a food-based product too. And Shiva, I think you have an animal
Bella,
family member
Bella.
in your life too.
Come here, Bella. Come here.
You got to give the pets some airtime.
Hi, Bella. Say hi. This is
Well,
Bella.
listen. Hi, Bella. So before we ask our candidates the final question of the night, we're going to show a little piece of work that is part of No Pants in Tucson. Last year, a little over a year ago, theaters shut down. And like so many other artists, we pivoted to creating online content. And the first thing that we created was a video that was inspired by these stories of women fighting for the suffragist movement, fighting for the right to vote. We had encountered several stories, some more well documented than others, about women dressing in male attire in order to try and vote, long before the 19th Amendment was passed.
Yeah.
So we're going to watch this 2-minute video. Please stay with us for She Tried to Vote in Pants.
You told us to get out, but we wouldn't.
I walked up to the ballot box and was about to cast my ballot when the inspector put his hand over the box and told me to get out. I protested. I told him I had just as much right to vote as he did.
You told us to get out, but we wouldn't. You told us to get out, but we wouldn't. You told us to get out, but we wouldn't. Lifting as we climb, onward and upward we go, struggling and striving and hoping that the buds and blossoms of our desires will burst into glorious fruition ere long. We knock at the bar of justice, asking an equal chance. We knock at the bar of justice, asking an equal chance. You told us to get out, but we wouldn't. Get out. You told us to get out, but we wouldn't. Get out. We knock at the bar of justice, asking an equal chance.
All right, get out that vote. The primary is coming up. Absentee ballots are already out. Early voting starts June 12th. Primary day is June 22nd. In New York City, especially, the Democratic primaries are crucial. So don't miss this. Also, fun fact, 1 week from today is, I believe, your last opportunity to register to vote in New York City. So for our final question of the night, and then we're going to do our call to action, because our motto is where art meets action, and we want all of you watching tonight to take action. What happens if or when everyone gets out the vote? What happens when we get these 4 women and more into office? What will New York City look like and feel like with more women in office? Candidates, if you can paint a picture for us of what you're envisioning in just a word or a short phrase. What is New York City? What is New York City going to look like with more women at the at the table of power?
Common sense.
Transformation.
Better.
Equitable.
Beautiful. And I think really, truly all night you presented us with what this vision for the city is. And I wish that I lived in one of your districts so that I could vote for you, but I'm in District 10. But I'm just thrilled to hear all of your ideas and learn from your experience. And, I just wish you the best boost for these last few weeks, this last sprint in the marathon. So right now is where I say some thank yous. I want to thank you all, Sarah, Sheba, Julia, Aisha, for joining us tonight and for deciding to run for office. I definitely have to thank our amazing streaming technicians behind the scenes, my Joycia Caesar and Tiffany McHugh. Tiffany is also our creative partner of programming and partnerships and helped put this event together. You can meet them all on our website. And I also want to express our gratitude to Inclusive Communications Services for providing live ASL interpretation, and our partner 21 and 21, who's doing incredible work to create an infrastructure for women to run for office and giving them the resources that they need to run a successful campaign. So now, Let us all help 21 and 21 achieve its mission. We have a historic opportunity for our city to achieve gender parity in public office. Early voting begins June 12th, primary day June 22nd. It's not just getting out the vote, it's helping these women win. So if you have been inspired tonight, which I'm sure you have, please check out their websites. You can do text banking for them, phone calls. I actually want to give you each a chance, like a super fast 10-second, like, is there an event coming up or a volunteer opportunity that you have for each of your campaigns? Oh, because you can also donate money to their campaigns.
Yes.
Give these women money to fuel the last month of their campaigns.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you have anything coming up? Someone was promoting bingo. Someone has a brunch thing. Help me out.
I have a rally next Wednesday from 4 to 6 to rally for small businesses to save them and their jobs of their employees. And that's going to be on 120th Street in Frederick Douglass at the Harriet Tubman Memorial. Please come out to support our small businesses.
We have a day of action on Sunday, so 2 days from now we'll be talking about the issues and then dispersing out into the district to talk to voters. We are meeting at the Eleanor Roosevelt Memorial at 72nd and Riverside Drive. So I like how we have a theme of meeting at Women's Month, Sunday at 11. Would love to see you there.
So we don't have any specific special events, but every week, every Thursday and Saturday afternoons, we're phone banking. We do phone bank bingo. There are actual prizes that you can win if you fill out your bingo board. And on Saturday mornings, we also knock doors all over the district. Yes. But if it's hard for you to find time in your schedule, if you're busy, please still reach out to us, votejulia.com. We have a lot of virtual opportunities that you can do in your own time, relational organizing, reaching out to your people, to your network, and talking about the issues. So votejulia.com. There's contact info. You can have my phone numbers on it. Feel free to give me, send me a text, give me a call. I'm around.
Everyone's going to get an email with all the info. Aisha, what do you have going on? You have anything coming up?
Every day is a day of action. We are on doors from 4 to 8:30 p.m. I'm lying, Monday through Friday. Sunday is from like 12 to 8. Yes, I knock on doors for 8 hours. Sunday as well. We phone bank every day. So feel free to join us. You can sign up at bronxbravo.nyc. Yes, I love the Bronx. So all my handles are Bronx Bravo. And join us. This is a real fight. District 15 is the heart of the Bronx, and it has all of the major institutions here, and yet it ranks number 2 in being one of the second poorest, out of the 51 districts. So this is a real fight and a unique time to elect a mother, a public servant, and the first woman to be elected in this seat.
Thank you. Thank you all. Remember, beautiful audience out there on YouTube, even if you don't live in one of their districts, you probably know somebody or multiple somebodies who do. So please help spread the word. Also, this year, it's new. We have ranked choice voting. So we're going to give you some links to learn about that. And of course, please visit our partner at 21and21.org to find out how you can help sustain this infrastructure for women candidates. So thank you all so much for being here. It's been a wonderful conversation. I wish we could all be in person, but soon enough, it's going to happen. We can get together again and continue the conversation. But thank you so much and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you for having me.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah. And great to see the three of you.
Yeah.
It's been a while since our 21 and 21 days.
Yeah.
It's good to see everybody. Severlyn, keep your head up, girl.
Yeah.
I'll see you all, what is it, January 2nd, 2021?
That's
Yes.
right. Preach. Speak it.
And thank you so much, the Anthros, for doing this. Really,
we're thrilled.
Love the camaraderie. I don't even.
Us too. Thank you so much.